know the why human trafficking work is needed, to fight for the freedom of modern-day slaves. But love, passion, commitment isn't all you need to be an effective and successful anti-trafficking advocate. Learn the how. I'm Dr. Celia Williamson, Director of the Human Trafficking and Social Justice Institute at the University of Toledo. Welcome to the Emancipation Nation podcast, where I'll provide you with the latest and best methods, policy, and practice discussed by experienced experts in the field so that you can cut through the noise, save time, and be about the work of saving lives. Welcome to the Emancipation Nation episode 124, and we're continuing on with the survivor's journey. And this week we're talking about the seventh journey, which is learns to trust and engages those who are trustworthy. So we know that through truth, there can be transformation. So the truth in regards to the seventh journey is that trust is demonstrated in action, not words. The transformation is that I trust people who are nurturing and trustworthy, and I remove those that are toxic. So why is trust so important? Not trusting others is a normal response given what survivors have gone through. Everybody understands why survivors don't trust. Survivors relied on somebody and they violated their trust. People that violate your trust are people that you have put into trusted positions, either based on their character as human beings or their position in a family or in a society or in a community. And no one would ever blame a survivor for never trusting anyone again. They would be rightly justified. But here's one critical thing about trust. It's the main ingredient in every meaningful relationship. Trust is so vital to thriving and truly living as a human being that it's an essential element needed in the most important relationships we have. It's the desire for us to connect and be able to give and receive love. And that's only possible through trust. Trust also involves elements of safety and belonging. We're less lonely when we trust. We can be more authentic when we trust. Life seems less challenging and our problems are less insurmountable when we trust because we have someone that we can share our thoughts and our feelings, our problems, our hopes, and our dreams with. When we can trust someone, we know that there's at least one person in the world that we can put reasonable faith in and who understands and truly knows us. But for some of us, our past experiences made us vulnerable and contributed to our lack of trust. We've learned to follow twisted, unhealthy rules sometimes and to keep secrets for a very long time. What survivors need to know is that secrets keep you sick. As people in Alcoholics Anonymous say, you're only as healthy as your secrets. It's true. So if you're a victim of child abuse, you know that you had no power and control over what happened to you. But you may wonder how and why you got involved in relationships later on that were violent or emotionally abusive, and how you got involved and stayed involved in sexual exploitation that happened in your life. Those are complex thoughts, and those are the things that we talk about in the seventh journey. So a survivor's childhood experiences, that's where they first learned about trust. That's where we all first learned about trust. So if someone violated your trust then, you learn that you could be fooled. You learn that if you're fooled, you could be violated emotionally, physically, sexually. Perhaps you were bullied or pressured to engage in ways that made you feel uncomfortable as a teenager. The result is that you learn not to trust others, and more importantly, not to trust yourself. Unfortunately, the outcome of violated trust is not a one-to-one ratio. Someone violates your trust, you learn to not trust that person. No, no, no. It's exponential. Someone violates your trust, you learn to trust no one or many people. And you become the walking wounded because you can't share who you really are with someone else. It's called trauma math. I just made that up. But it's when you get violated, it's not that you learn to just not trust in that one person. It's not trusting in any type of relationships. So you either become the porcupine, the possum, or the pig when you don't learn to trust. What does that mean? If you don't trust anyone, then you become like the porcupine. If anybody gets too close to you emotionally, physically, they'll get stuck, they'll get poked, they'll get prodded. And that's the way that you keep yourself from being hurt, by keeping people at an emotional distance, even at a physical distance. So the way the porcupine works is first you assume betrayal before it occurs, and then you act accordingly. Regardless of how someone behaves, you assume that they'll betray you. Because of that, you await betrayal. You get involved in an intimate relationship or a close friendship, and you just wait for the betrayal to happen. You're waiting to be stabbed in the back, because even though you have seen it and read about it in other people, and you experience a trauma or a broken trust with someone else, deep inside, you believe that most people betray other people. You expect it. You may even unconsciously set it up or sabotage your relationship so that it happens, so that you can say, see, I told you. This isn't exclusive to just survivors of sex or labor trafficking. Anyone that has experienced trauma, broken trust, can become a person that's a porcupine, that doesn't want anyone or let anyone get close to them. You distance yourself from others. You no longer are carefree because you have to stay on high alert just in case something happens. You may be physically with friends and family, but you're not emotionally connecting or carefree. You're just waiting for something to happen, for the other shoe to drop, and then you can continue to prove yourself right. Another way of never trusting anybody is just to avoid the commitment altogether. You can't commit because something could go wrong. Somebody could be wrong. You rather stay at home. You rather stay distant. You rather say no. You would like to say no. And you would not try on any level to achieve an emotional commitment or a closeness because it's terrifying. And look, you would be within your full rights as a human being to conduct the life you want to live. Never trusting anybody is the best way to never get hurt again. It's also the best way of not living a genuine and fulfilling life. Going through life not trusting anybody is a lonely way to live. You will appear as if you're functioning appropriately and in a healthy way, but when people try and get close to you, you have a hard stop. When you work for what you want, then you'll receive what you get. In other words, if you work hard on not trusting others, you will never again trust another human being. You deprive yourself of genuine human connection and authentic living. Now, those are the porcupines. But let's talk about the people who are engaged in pseudo trust. They're like the possum. You know, they're playing possum. They're playing as if they do trust people, but they don't. So when the possum doesn't trust, they play dead, like fainting or freezing. They play possum in hopes that a deadly predator will move on and not try and harm them. Getting too close to them scares the possum, and they may be frozen with fear. hoping to manipulate the person that is an emotional threat to them into believing that they do trust, but they're not ready for this friendship or this relationship. In actuality, it's because they fear trust. However, pretending to trust someone is not trust. It's playing possum, and it's making other people believe that you have the ability to trust when you don't have the tools to learn to genuinely trust again. So it puts you in a position of a con artist in a con game. You're pretending that you trust somebody else, but you really don't trust anybody. You're lying to them, and you're setting up the friendship or the relationship to be fake from the start and to be built on a lie. So pseudo trust can sometimes also show up as overprotection. Like you feel people are not deserving of trust, and so you keep them at an emotional distance. But when you do that, you confuse other people because you're pretending that you trust when you really don't. And you show them that you don't trust. Your words say you trust, your deeds say you don't trust. So it can be confusing. And there are arguments that take place, but the arguments sometimes aren't named. And it's all about trust. Because what you do is you wrap your heart in plastic and you place it in a vault and you swallow the key. So nobody can get to you. You become quick to say no to anything risky. You date other people that are sort of asymmetrical and incompatible to you. For instance, they may be beneath you or above you financially or emotionally, or your ages are way different, or you live in geographically different locations, or they're married, or they're addicted, or they're not serious. They lack the intellectual capacity that you have. That could be one of them. So it would be obvious that you would not take this potential partner seriously and treat them as a genuine life partner. And you set it up that way because you really don't want to trust and become close. You make sure your children are overly protected. Protecting your children is important. You know, being helicopter mom over your children, not very healthy. Another way that you sort of pseudo trust is by pretending that trust isn't a big deal to you. So you don't accept people into your heart and you act like it's not a big deal. And because you don't even trust that people may accept you, you might be quick to put yourself down before someone else can, or make yourself the butt of the joke before anybody else has a chance to hurt you. So that's the pseudo trust kind of person, the person playing possum. Then there's chance versus trust. And that's sort of like the pig. And I'll explain it. I'm not really calling you a pig. I'll explain why I call the person that's the chance taker sort of like a pig. Because to this person, they've been violated. Their trust has been broken. They don't have the tools to rebuild it. And so they just take chances because they don't know what could happen. So it's a game of chance to them because they don't have the tools. So 50-50 chance that this person is trustworthy and I'm going to go for it. But because of your past vulnerabilities and trauma, you have the tendency to miss the red flags that other people see. So it kind of tips the odds against you. Taking chances without the tools to determine if somebody's trustworthy or not is like playing Russian roulette. So someone's going to get hurt, and it's likely going to be you. So opening your heart to fully embrace somebody and fully trust them is like stepping out in front of a firing squad and hoping that nobody fires the gun. So fully opening yourself up and placing your heart in someone else's hands without understanding if they're trustworthy and up to the challenge of accepting you Giving somebody your heart, that's an important and amazing gift. And it's just crazy to play Russian roulette and just hand it to somebody. It's almost like emotional suicide. It's a gamble without the odds being in your favor. But, instead of wagering money, you're playing with your feelings. When your trust is violated, it's important that you learn who you should practice trusting and who you shouldn't trust. Trust is a gamble we all make, but with the tools needed, we can tip the odds in your favor. And that's what the seventh journey is all about, learning to trust those that are trustworthy. And so, I say it's compared to being a pig, where a pig just jumps into the slop and just starts eating whatever is in the pig pen. They don't take the time to find out what they're eating, if it's good, if it's spoiled, what it is. They're just in the mud, getting dirty, and just eating whatever it is without any tools, without any thought, without any care in the world. And so just like your mom said, when you were little, who you hang around, you pick up their attitude. You lay down with dogs, you get up with fleas, all those things are true. And so we don't just want to jump into friendships or relationships and hand over the keys to our heart and our trust without being able to have the tools to understand who might be trustworthy and who's not trustworthy. So in the seventh journey, I talk about 3 different types of people that we might engage with that ask for our trust. And the first is the con artist, right? The con artist, the thing about con artists is they never take anything from you. You give it. And so it's just like finesse pimping, manipulation type pimping. And in any aspects of our life, in our relationships, the con artists, they come in all shapes, sizes, ethnicities, genders. They're great storytellers and they're great liars. They show up as boyfriends and girlfriends and husbands and wives and friends and family members and kind strangers and traffickers. They weave a narrative about who they are that makes you feel comfortable with them. They manipulate you so that you bring them close to your heart. They might even let you know that there are parts of them that are broken. Much like a winged bird, you understand them and you bring them even closer to your heart. They might show you that they have potential, and so you take a gamble with them. Whatever it is that brought them close enough to you, they made you believe they were someone that over time you would place in a trusted position with your life. Like I said, in reality, con artists don't take anything from you. They manipulate you so that you give them what they want. A con artist will not take your trust. You'll give it to them. They won't take your love. You'll give it to them. They won't take your empathy, your compassion, your loyalty. You'll give it to them. When you're in the grasp of a con artist, you'll work against your own best interest to give them your most precious internal gems, such as your trust, and then perhaps your material items, such as your money, your comforts of life, and eventually your credibility. See, because con artists understand the vulnerabilities and the expectations of their intended victim. They present themselves to you in the likeness of somebody you should trust. And right when you're vulnerable, they turn the tables on you. They present to you an image that you already want to see. What is your idea of a most trustworthy friend, an intimate partner, a great husband or wife, a foster parent? What do all these people look like? How do they present themselves? And that's what you'll see in the con artist. What might they say or do? What might they promise you? The con artist is going to mirror all these things to you, but deep down past the facade of that image, they are not who they say they are. There are very easy ways to see the con artist for who they truly are, and we're going to talk about that. Hey, before we continue the episode, I want to let you know of 3 courses I offer: Effective Case Management with Human Trafficking Survivors, the TNT Survivor Journey Groups, and the Best Life Human Trafficking Prevention course for girls that are at risk. Raising awareness around human trafficking is a great start. Hanging up flyers, having fundraisers, doing human trafficking presentations, or even joining an anti-trafficking coalition or commission or student group. But it simply isn't enough. If you or your group aren't touching the lives of survivors or those at risk in meaningful and healing ways, you're missing a critical component. I want you to get back to the reasons you joined the anti-trafficking fight in the first place. The reason you joined that coalition or that commission or that student group. You wanted to make a difference, but maybe you didn't know exactly what to do, and so presentations seemed doable. Why? Because you had the knowledge and skills to do it. Well, if you're really ready to get directly involved and help change the lives of others for the better, then this is an important message for you. I have almost 30 years experience working with survivors and studying the issue, and I'm circling back to help you become effective and confident in your ability to work with survivors of commercial sexual violence. I wrote a few books, developed some courses, and would love to train you on how to be involved directly. Just go to my website, celiawilliamson.com, and check out my webinars. Learn a little more about how you can become knowledgeable and skilled to actually work with survivors using my trauma-informed courses. And now, on with the podcast. In the world of sex trafficking, con artists are finesse pimps. But the same is true for victims of domestic violence. Prince Charming presents himself or herself to you almost in the exact package you'd like them to appear in. They say the right things and they offer you the life and the love. It's not perfect, but it's good enough for you. And you get in it and you give them your love, your trust, your loyalty. He gets you to stop thinking about your needs and wants and desires, but instead to focus on him and what he needs to be happy. And over time, you can't even remember much about what you liked or who you were. You're focused on his needs. When he's violent the first time, whether it's verbal or physical, he begs you for forgiveness. Since you know nobody's perfect, you forgive him and you experience a honeymoon period for a while. Everything is good, but the tension builds again. And when you least expect it, they become angry. The protective nature they have turns into control. Jealousy used to be endearing, now it's scary. You try to explain away his behavior. You try harder to accommodate his needs and be sensitive to his feelings. And each time you're inching closer to suspending your freedoms, giving up who you are so that he can feel safe and assured that you love him. You stop talking to the people in your life that upset him. Now you try and predict when they're going to have a bad day. On these days, you try and do and say all the right things, but the right things aren't enough anymore. He's violent, he's abusive, he's disrespectful. He's accusing you of things you're not guilty of. He tells you that he wouldn't be this way if it wasn't your fault, that you can't do anything right. The same type of thing happens when we're children that are abused. We place our trust in someone that takes advantage of that trust. They take your trust, your self-esteem, your self-confidence. They take your childhood. Sometimes they take your internal joy. And in return, they ask you to keep a secret so dreadful that it eats you up inside. That's the con artist. The two-face, they're the people early on in any relationship that shows you the side you want to see, but then they easily flip the script very quickly to be dangerous and scary. This can happen in date rape and sexual assault and guerrilla pimping. And they force you to do things that you don't want to do. This person is truly dangerous because over time, you have revealed much of who you are with this person. So they know the tender parts of you. They know how to deeply hurt you because they understood and understand your dreams, your hopes, your desires, your needs, and your secrets. You shared with this person what scares you, what makes you safe, what makes you happy. And they understand all the soft undersides of you. They know you. They know what you care most about. They know where you're broken. They know how to hold you emotionally and physically hostage, and they do. They may see what you love most, including your intangible items, such as your desires, your fears, your fantasies, and they twist those and they use them against you. And that's the ultimate betrayal. When you want to leave this person, you still feel a deep attachment and you're confused. Your mind's telling you that you can no longer share time with someone that hurt you so much, but your heart is telling you to stay connected. It's because you haven't been connected so much before. You bonded with this person. You unconsciously may even connected your wounding with their wounding. But a connection of wounds, that's not real love. What you have to realize is that what you're connecting to and grieving about is that you shared time. You gave a part of yourself to this person. That's what you're feeling. It's not love. It's that you're leaving a part of your fantasy, your dream about this person behind. But it's time to do that. Leave behind the part that you shared with this person. It's just history. And you're confusing those things for genuine love. But anybody that can flip the script and become violent, either emotionally or physically, and make no mistake, emotional violence is just as violent and may even last longer than bruises. It's time for you to recognize that and begin to leave this person, distance this person, and find people who are trustworthy, who are deserving to keep your heart in their hands and not to hurt you. The last type of person is the CEO. Oh, and let me go back and say, guerrilla pimping, of course, is about, beating, being very violent, forcing you to trade sex and those types of things. But guerrillas can appear in domestic violence, sexual assault, and all the other areas where there's trauma. The CEO is the exploiter that plays on your need to feel loved and safe and be taken care of. They show up in your life presenting themselves as someone that's powerful and strong and competent and almost all-knowing. The CEO's competence, coupled with the way they handle the world, makes you even feel lucky to have been chosen to be in their company. It's their competence and their arrogance that makes you feel attracted to them. With the CEO, though, there comes an implied contract. It's rarely spoken about in great detail, but when you're in the CEO's orbit, there's an implied contract and there's a promise either verbally or non-verbally that they'll take care of you. In return, they want complete loyalty and allegiance to them. The hallmark of a CEO is that there are differential and unequal rules between the both of us. They have the power and you have little to none. What they believe is what you should believe. They own, possess, and keep you. However, they don't abide by the same rules they place you under. They will break your trust over and over, believing that because they are taking care of you and have ownership of you, that they can do what they want. But it's most important that you be loyal to them. And in fact, if you violate their trust or break the strict rules that they place you under, then you're subject to severe consequences. Now, I presented these three types of exploiters, abusers, people that violate your trust, but you'll probably see elements. If you've been in an abusive relationship, including trafficking experience, you might see elements of those across in each one that might describe your experience. But what happens in all of these relationships, whether they're friendships, intimate relationships, or a trafficking experience, which is also a relationship, there is a violated contract. That is what's happening. So trust is broken. And when someone has been traumatized, it's particularly triggering when someone violates trust, because that is an agreement that's made and that person wants to feel safe that they can trust in you. And so when that's broken, it's particularly damaging and triggering to someone that has experienced trauma before, particularly sexual type of trauma. So what do we do in this seventh journey with survivors? Is we provide tools for trustworthiness. So we teach how to see somebody who might be trustworthy and to practice developing your trust and placing your trust over time gradually in people who are trustworthy, and also how to become trustworthy. So the first thing, of course, the hallmark in how to build trust is to watch people's words and actions. So when you're vulnerable or you have experienced past trauma, we tend to trust words and ignore deeds. In other words, we trust what people say and we don't pay attention to what they actually do. The first and foremost important tool in your toolbox is to learn to separate the words from the actions. So you'll begin to separate out and compare what people do and what people say. So just like Maya Angelou said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Now you'll notice that Maya Angelou didn't say when someone tells you who they are. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. So we have to learn to separate those words from the actions. And then we will see who they are. If they tell you that you're important to them, but they continue to be late, to not show up, or to tell you that something else came up and they can't be there, they're showing you that they don't value you. If their actions were put into words, those words would be, you can't put your trust in me because I'm not trustworthy. In turn, someone may tell you who they are, telling you how much you should trust them is not what you should pay attention to. If they fail to show up, they fail to complete the task they told you they would do, or they act in a way toward you or others that's opposite of what they said, trust their actions, not their words. Their actions will always tell you who they are. The truth lies in their actions. So they may tell you verbally what they believe in. However, if they act directly opposite of what they said they believe in, pay attention to their actions, not their words. If someone tells you that they're a lover, not a fighter, and then they argue over almost everything you believe in, they're more of a fighter. So pay attention to their actions. They may tell you about their behavior and then act in the direct opposite of what they told you. Of course, in all of these scenarios, people will give you a logical reason for why they acted in the direct, exact opposite of what they told you. They will give you a reason why they did these things, or they acted differently, or they believe differently, and it will sound great. And it will sound logical. But trust and believe. Watch their actions that will always tell you who they are. If they say, I'm generous and I will give anybody the shirt off my back, but then you watch them say things like, I ain't picking them up, they can walk. Watch their actions. So that's what is most important. Actions. Parents that say, I love you, but push you away. Parents that take all their money and use it for something else other than your care. They're showing you how invested they are. And it may be painful, but at least understanding by seeing who they are, observing what they do, that's going to help you determine whether you put your trust in someone or not. A neighbor that says they're going to look out for your child to get off the bus, but instead they drive off to go shopping, is not someone that should be trusted with your child. Their actions and their words don't match. But, let's talk about even deeper. Let's talk about relationships. Let's say you give your heart to someone and you trust that they're going to do the same. Your heart reveals a lot about your character. Will they choose to keep your heart safe, or will they abuse it, play with it, tease it? Will they make it jealous for their own satisfaction? Will they hurt it? Will they throw it away whenever they want? Those are the things you have to watch for. And so when people say, I don't want to rush into a relationship, I used to think, wow, this is a great person. Why wouldn't they want to be with this person? Why wouldn't they? Must not be interested. No, someone can be very interested, but when they slow a relationship down, as you should always do, they're doing that because they want to see over time, do your actions match your words? Because they value their heart. They value their trust. And so they want time to look over the actions and the words and see if they match. The second thing you want to do is listen to your intuition. If we have been abused or victimized previously, we've learned to turn that volume down, that feeling down in our gut. And what we have to do now is we have to start turning it up. We have to start listening to our intuition, because it will tell you a lot about people. So trust takes time. There are 4 C's connected to trust. Those 4 things that we're looking for as we slow this relationship down or this friendship down because of trust. This is how we learn to trust in people. We're looking for consistency. That means, do they present themselves in the same way consistently? Or one day they're happy, the next day they're going off. Okay, that's not a person that's consistent. If I tell you something, a secret, can you keep it, or do you tell other people? Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. You're not consistent. Do you show up when you said you're going to show up? You do, sometimes you don't. You're not consistent. I cannot put my trust in someone who isn't consistent. Compassion, that's the second C. It's the idea that somebody's heart's in the right place. They have concern for the suffering and misfortune of other people. They're able to have sympathy and show empathy. Other ways that they show you this is by just helping other people, opening the door for somebody that's having a difficult time, being a good listener. All those things, they're showing you their compassion. A great exercise that I use is I love to go to restaurants with people when I'm considering whether I should place my trust in them. Am I going to hire them and place my trust that they're going to do the job? Am I going to uh, have them babysit my children? Am I going to work with them in a collaboratively? So I like to take people to a restaurant, and here's why I like to take them to a restaurant, because I want to see how they treat the wait staff, right? I want to see that. Why? Because the wait staff is paid, I don't know, in the US, maybe $3 an hour under minimum wage because they mostly live on tips. And however you treat the wait staff, they have to take care of your every need. If you don't tip them, it doesn't matter. They still have to be as kind and nice. They have to run back into the kitchen 4 different times if you need this or you need that. No matter what you say and how you say it and how mean you are, they have to be very nice to you. In essence, however you present yourself, this person has to be kind and nice to you. So when you have complete control, how do you behave? How do you treat them? How do you speak to them? How many times do you run them back in the kitchen? How dismissive of them are you? Do you tip them? Because nothing else exposes character more than how you treat people you think you don't need. This is the window into how you might treat somebody in the future, namely me. When they have you and they assume you're powerless, how might they run you around in the future expecting you to give and give and give? Will they value what you're doing for them? How dismissive will they be of you? It's just an experiment, but you might try it. When I'm deciding to trust somebody, I'm also looking at capability. Is somebody capable of having a genuine friendship or an intimate relationship? Or are they stunted and not able to really show the emotion that I might need? Are they able to be as open as you'd like them to be? Are they able to communicate as transparently as you need? If they don't have the power or the ability right now to be what you need, then you're not going to be able to change them at this time. If they don't have the skills right now or they're not able to, it's not that they are a bad person necessarily, just may not be a right fit for you. They're coming up short in terms of what you can trust in them to provide to you. The last C is about communication. Is this person that you're going to be friends with or engaging regularly with, are they someone that can be transparent enough for you to trust them? Do they share their thoughts, their beliefs, their opinions, their past experiences? Are they an open book when it comes to you? Will they talk to you on a feeling level? Are you able to communicate with them? So I like the 4 C's, and I like to take time to assess the person that I'm about to hand my trust to. I mean, it's not that we should blindly do this. We should be following the 4 C's, and that's what the 7th journey is about. It's about helping people identify and be provided the tools to be able to regain trust. And we have to, of course, become those 4 C's. If we want to have trusting friendships and relationships, we have to become the 4 C's, right? Because recognize game. I mean, anybody that's healthy is going to walk away from you, right? If you are not somebody who's consistent and capable and communicate and who is compassionate. So that's the 7th journey. And when you become trustworthy, then you also become truthworthy. That means that others will confide in you because they trust you. And they'll tell you their most intimate secrets and thoughts and feelings. They'll share the true them with you. And becoming truthworthy is an honored position. Not many people receive such an honor. So when someone shares their vulnerable selves with you, you must treat it delicately and with care. Being truthworthy is placing you at the highest level of friendship and relationship. And of course, remember that you can always choose not to trust. As you go through the 7th journey, it's all about empowerment. All of these survivors' journeys are about empowerment. But when you don't learn to trust, life becomes very flat. It becomes very black and white and not very colorful and not very meaningful. So I also want to tell you that there are some people in the world that just are morally corrupt, and they're not trustworthy, and they'll never be trustworthy. And so the survivor's journey is about learning the skills and the tools on who to trust and who not to trust, and helping you to recover in ways that make life meaningful and joyful. You remember, joy is about the choice to be content within yourself, to be happy. Happiness is fleeting, but joy is a conscious choice. And being able to regain your trust and being able to trust others and trust yourself in terms of assessing who's trustworthy. That's all in your recovery. So I hope the 7th journey, or an overview of a 7th journey, kind of helped you understand more about the survivor's journey. And until next time, the fight continues.
Let's not just do something, let's do the best thing. If you like this episode of Emancipation Nation, please subscribe and I'll send you the weekly podcast. Until then, the fight continues.